Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you straight to the heart of the national security conversation.
We're focusing on a confrontation that is just. It's continuous, it's relentless, and it's largely hidden from view.
The digital battle space. The U.S. is in this constant competition where the line between, peace and conflict is basically invisible.
And the stakes are our foundational technology, our infrastructure, our entire future prosperity.
Yeah, and we're diving into a really crucial strategy document today.
That's right. It's a special report from the Vanderbilt University Institute of National Security's Wicked Problems Lab, and it's called Dominating the Digital Space.
And it serves up a stark warning, but also a pretty radical proposal.
It really does. It argues that the only way to meet this threat is through what they call a whole-of-society mobilization.
A whole society mobilization. They're talking about a strategic commitment. On the scale of winning World War II.
Exactly. That's the comparison they make.
Which is a dramatic comparison. But when you think about how deeply tech is embedded in every part of our lives, it starts to make sense.
It does. And the report defines the ultimate goals for this mobilization. The North Star, if you will.
Okay, so what is it? What are the strategists aiming for?
The ultimate objective is something they call digital dominance.
Digital dominance.
Right. This means the U.S. has to not only defend its networks, but also actively shape, control, and secure foundational technologies across the entire ecosystem.
Okay, and to get there, they say you need something else first.
You first need what they call analytic superiority.
Right, let's unpack that term. Analytic superiority. What does that actually look like for you, the listener?
Think of it like a global military chess game, but one that's being played at lightning speed.
At a machine speed.
At machine speed. Analytic superiority is the ability to sense, to understand, and then to act faster than your opponent. You see the entire board instantly. You're anticipating their moves.
Well, you're also making things harder for them.
Exactly. You're generating so much friction and confusion for the adversary that their decision-making systems just constantly fail. It's operating at machine speed while they're stuck in a perpetual fog.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole mobilization effort. In this deep dive, we're going to cover the nature of this threat, this sub-threshold conflict.
And the report's conclusion that we have to fundamentally shift away from traditional deterrence.
Right, and then this radical proposal for what they call integrated resilience in key sectors.
And finally, the aggressive plan for persistent cyber campaigning using AI and a unified national cyber operations team.
It's a sweeping set of recommendations.
For sure. And they're all designed to address one core fact. The battle space isn't somewhere distant anymore. It has already been installed inside our nation's digital ecosystem.
That is the perfect place to start. The report is really clear that malicious cyber activity is persistent, it's pervasive.
And it's affecting not just, the Department of War, but every aspect of American life.
Everything from your household utilities to massive industrial sectors. It's not a theoretical problem. It's happening right now.
And the real challenge for the U.S. is that our adversaries, especially China, are exploiting the space below the level of armed conflict.
Operating in that gray zone.
Exactly. Through these persistent campaigns of espionage, data manipulation, and this is the big one, massive intellectual property theft.
And the scale of that IP theft, it's just staggering.
It really is.
The source material notes that China's campaign of, undeterred IP theft has cost U.S. industry literally trillions of dollars over decades.
Trillions. Trillions that Beijing didn't have to spend on its own R&D.
So it's essentially an accelerator for their strategic rise.
And it fundamentally erodes the competitiveness of American industry. It's a foundational erosion. They haven't just stolen secrets, they've stolen years of future innovation.
And this sustained activity, this undeterred theft below the threshold of war, it sets the stage for the most immediate and dangerous threat in the report.
Which is the covert prepositioning of foreign access within U.S. critical infrastructure and key resources, or CIKR.
Okay, this is where the story really shifts from just espionage to preparation for war. What does covert prepositioning mean in operational terms?
It means that state-sponsored actors are not just breaking in to look around or steal data. They're installing permanent, stealthy footholds.
Like digital timed explosives.
That's a great way to put it. Digital explosives inside the operating networks that run our country. The report explicitly cites China's Volt-Salt Typhoon group.
Right.
which has already been discovered, penetrating operational technology networks.
So we're talking about access deep inside the systems that, for instance, generate our power or treat our water.
Exactly.
What's the implication of having that kind of operational access?
The implication is, frankly, terrifying, because this access is designed to disrupt two specific things during a future crisis.
Okay.
First, it's designed to complicate or even halt U.S. military mobilization if a conflict were to erupt overseas, say in the Indo-Pacific.
And the second thing?
Second, and maybe more disturbingly, it's designed to impose domestic hardship on the American population.
So weaponizing domestic life, sowing fear, confusion, economic instability here at home to weaken our resolve for a conflict far away.
That's it. You're targeting the U.S. population and its economy as a primary front in a distant war. It uses our own national vulnerability as a strategic tool.
Given that deterrence is so clearly failing for these aggressive actions, the report concludes the policy focus has to shift dramatically.
Yeah, a new operational concept is needed, one that's centered not on preventing every single intrusion, which is nearly impossible,
Right.
but on mitigating and surviving their effects.
And that new concept is integrated resilience.
Integrated resilience, or IR. The goal of IR is to transform these currently fragmented, often ineffective cybersecurity efforts into a single, unified national posture.
One that can resist, absorb, and then rapidly recover from a digital disruption at scale.
It's about being able to get hit and bounce back almost instantly.
Now, the report makes a critical point here about focus. I mean, the current framework, CIKR, it designates 16 sectors as critical.
Right, and the authors argue that this is just too broad. It obscures our true priorities. When you try to protect everything equally, you end up protecting nothing effectively.
So what's the proposal?
They propose narrowing the focus dramatically. Concentrate national resources on only 5 essential sectors.
5.
Just 5. These are the sectors whose immediate disruption would rapidly destabilize the country because of how interdependent they are.
And those 5 are power, water, telecommunications, finance, and healthcare emergency services.
That's the list.
But why cut it down so severely? I mean, why remove something like transportation or food and agriculture? Those seem pretty vital.
They are vital, but it comes down to the speed and the catastrophic nature of a cascading failure.
Okay.
While a collapse in transportation or food would be bad, it tends to happen over days or weeks. The 5 they chose, power, water, telecom, finance, and health, are so immediately interdependent.
That the failure of one creates an immediate severe failure in the others.
Within hours. If the power grid goes down, telecom fails. That collapses finance, which means hospitals can't operate. It's a calculated decision based on the shortest path to national chaos.
That immediately focuses the resources where they are needed most. Now, as we discuss protecting these massive national networks, it sort of reminds me that protecting private info is just as critical for you as an individual.
For sure.
While we're demanding better defenses from the operators of these huge systems, you need to ensure your personal data is secure against all this constant digital friction.
Absolutely.
For some really smart, actionable ways to defend your own digital life and private data, you should check out the insights and analysis available at www.myprivacy.blog.
A very important point.
But back to the strategy. So if we agree these 5 sectors are the priority, the next challenge is how do you protect them from invisible adversaries who are already inside?
Right, and the government cannot help defend what it cannot see.
Which brings us to the report's most, I would say, stringent proposal, moving beyond voluntary information sharing.
Voluntary sharing, things like CISO 2015 or CISO, it's all fundamentally reactive.
You're waiting for a company to report an incident after it's already happened?
Exactly. The report calls for mandatory visibility. It would require key operators in those 5 essential sectors to provide real-time cyber telemetry and incident information to designated federal agencies.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like a major infringement on corporate privacy, on data control, not to mention a massive expansion of government surveillance.
And the authors acknowledge that it's contentious. That's why the proposal also mandates strong technical and legal safeguards.
Such
The data has to be anonymized, all personal identifying information must be scrubbed, and intellectual property has to be protected from federal agencies, like the NSA or Cyber Command.
So they would only use this data flow for national security threat analysis.
That's the idea. It's a trade-off. In exchange for the immense benefit of federal-level defense against state actors, the private sector has to cede some visibility, but only of sanitized machine-generated data.
Okay, so assuming this real-time visibility is achieved, what should the U.S. do when it finds that digital explosive inside one of these critical sectors?
Well, this sets the stage for a new declaratory policy.
New line in the sand.
Exactly. The report argues that the executive branch must declare that this kind of unauthorized access and pre-positioning will be treated not as simple espionage, but as the digital equivalent of secretly emplacing explosives in our critical infrastructure.
It's an act of strategic aggression.
Designed to pre-commit future harm, and it demands an immediate national response.
So we define the aggression, we prioritize the targets, and within this whole integrated resilience framework, the military also has a very specific focus.
A non-negotiable focus. That focus is Defense Critical Infrastructure, or DCI. It's the subset of those essential sectors. Things like base power supplies, logistics hubs, communication networks that directly enable the U.S. military to execute operations.
And the report stresses that protecting DCI is the absolute first priority of the Department of War.
Because if DCI is compromised, the military simply cannot ensure mission assurance globally. It all falls apart.
And the technical complexity here of collecting and analyzing all this real-time data from DCI in the 5 sectors, it requires incredibly robust enterprise tools and infrastructure.
This is high-stakes security at industrial scale.
Yeah. For solutions that are really tailored for these kinds of high-stakes environments, you need to know what enterprise tools are even available. You can find some essential resources at www.cisomarketplace.com.
Right. But defense, even this integrated resilience, is only half the battle.
The report is really emphatic about this. Simply reacting and cleaning up intrusions is a losing strategy.
It's completely unsustainable. We have to talk about going on the offensive.
That's the core realization, isn't it? You can't effectively remove adversaries and foil their plans without sustained offensive pressure.
Right now, the U.S. tends to conduct these episodic, high-capability one-off cyber missions. It's like an isolated strike.
While our adversaries are running continuous, persistent cyber campaigns?
A relentless sequence of integrated operations, all tied together by long-term strategic goals that are constantly shaping the battle space in their favor.
So the U.S. needs to match that continuous tempo. And to scale up to meet that global demand, the report proposes what is probably its most radical structural concept.
The creation of a National Cyber Operations Team, or NCOT.
NCOT.
And it's necessary because, and the report is blunt here, no combination of authorities, structures, or service reforms will allow the Department of War to scale to the level the nation now requires.
The demand for highly specialized cyber talent is just too large for the government to recruit and train on its own.
Far too large.
So why not just, beef up existing organizations like U.S. Cyber Command? What does NCOT do differently?
NCOT is designed as a team of teams that legally and functionally unifies the most innovative private sector cyber talent with government experts.
Okay, and crucially,
it puts this combined talent pool under the persistent oversight, command, and control of U.S. Cyber Command's existing Title X military forces.
So you're merging the technical agility of the civilian world with the authority and strategic alignment of the military?
That's kinetic.
Why the strict military command, though? Why can't the civilian operators, who often have the most cutting-edge skills, run the show?
It comes down to unity of command, which is a foundational principle for any effective military operation, and also, critically, current law. While the private sector teams bring the scale and innovation, they have to operate under military authority to ensure every action supports national strategy. And legally, current law often prohibits those civilian operators from taking the final action that generates the cyber effect.
So they can do all the prep work.
They can prepare the intelligence, posture the capabilities, execute right up to the last tactical mile, but that final trigger pull often legally requires a uniformed military operator.
That really highlights the complexity of this civilian-military partnership. You need the private sector for scale, but they're legally constrained in the actual execution.
And none of this, not the defense, not the resilience, not the campaigning, none of it will succeed without the final non-negotiable ingredient.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Because of the speed of the conflict.
Exactly. The report stresses that cyber conflict is increasingly fought at machine speed. Adversaries are already leaning heavily on automation and AI-enabled recon.
And human operators just can't keep up.
They cannot detect, analyze, or respond fast enough. So full integration of AI into all aspects of cyber operations. That's the key to achieving the analytic superiority we talked about at the start.
So all these steps, integrated resilience, NCOT, persistent campaigning, AI, it isn't just a reaction to today's threats like Volt Salt Typhoon.
No, it's about future-proofing. It's about building what they call structural agility.
Creating institutional muscle memory.
Yes, so that when the next unforeseen technological breakthrough happens, whether it's quantum computing or synthetic intelligence or something we can't even imagine,
The U.S. has the operational structure and legal framework already in place to respond and adapt immediately.
we have to posture for an uncertain future dominated by machine speed.
So what does this all mean for the listener? The Vanderbilt report argues that these comprehensive measures are necessary to secure the nation's leadership and shape the global digital order by achieving digital dominance. It is a massive strategic shift.
It is indeed. The strategy really rests on 5 essential pillars.
Okay, let's recap them.
Achieving digital dominance, anchored by analytic superiority. Building integrated resilience, focused on those 5 essential sectors.
Implementing mandatory real-time visibility with strict safeguards.
And creating the NCOT for persistent offensive campaigning, all of it powered by integrated AI.
It paints a very clear, if very challenging, pathway forward.
And this path involves a significant tension. The report is careful to note that these measures have to protect American technology and civil liberties. But when you look at the NCOT model, with its secrecy, speed, and centralized military control over private sector operations, it raises a critical question for you, the listener, to consider.
Right.
How can the necessary speed and centralized authority required to win this persistent digital conflict be successfully balanced against the fundamental democratic values and privacy protections that this whole strategy is meant to secure in the first place?
That balance between security and freedom.
It will define the success of this entire whole-of-society mobilization.
A deeply critical question that every citizen will eventually need to grapple with. Thank you for helping us dive into this crucial report today.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.